Hey everybody, Mike J. Anthony here, and I just want to look at this market as a whole because there's not a lot of, to me anyway, in my opinion, there's not a lot of YouTubers that are looking at the big picture. There's a few that I've listened to that actually take you back, but it's usually very briefly. I just listen to one guy go back, and take a look at the big picture and actually comment that people are not are looking at way too short term of a view, and and that's only because of the price of Bitcoin lately. Usually, I don't hear him talking about that, but because the price has dropped so precipitously lately, he had to go and remind viewers to take a long-term view at this. But I think that that should be done anyway. Now, I'm no financial guy. I'm no technical analysis person. I rarely put out videos about crypto. I just like to, but every now and then I do. I like to give my opinion on what I see going on. And um, I when I look at videos from other, YouTube TA people, technical analysis people, I wish they would do more long-term views. I really do. I always have myself thinking, you know what? I wish they would go back and show us the long term. And they don't tend to do that unless there's something like this going on, um, what they think are scary drops, I guess, because people's views are short term. But I wish they would do this all the time. When they do their technical analysts, I notice that it's always very, very short term. They talk about the 5 minute, the 10 minute, the hourly. I can care less about stuff like that. What I do like is I like the long term view. So I wish that they would actually include that more in their technical analysis for comparison purposes. And I don't think that too many people spend nearly enough time there. So I want to go back and in my video here, I want to actually go back and look at what happened during the last breakneck market that we saw, which was actually way back, way, 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 way back. I'm talking all the way back in 2014. So I'm there right now, and as you can see, uh, our current market cap is at, and that's another thing. I'm going to look at total market cap. I'm not going to look at just Bitcoin or Litecoin. I'm going to look at the total market cap, the whole cryptocurrency market as a whole. And we are currently at $207 billion. Okay. And Bitcoin's dominance is 51%. This is akin to what we saw back in 2015 when I was first entering the Bitcoin market and I seen Bitcoin drop from 900 down to less than $200. And I was just starting to enter the market and I was just starting to learn about what Bitcoin was during that time. And I remember having the chance to buy at 187, and I did have a couple. I had as many as five Bitcoin, but I did not place any value on it. I was experimenting. I did not keep that amount of Bitcoin. I wish I did, of course, like most of you out there. But I didn't know at the time. But I was learning about the market at that time, so I remember that, and that's exactly the time when I got in. Sometime after that happened, and I think if I remember correctly, the Bitcoin dominance was somewhere around 56%. Okay, so we're kind of getting back to those markets. So why not go back there and take a look at what happened? Well, I'm looking at, let's see, here's the top right here. Here's the blow off top. It was December 2013 when the market hit $15 billion. Okay, before that it was like it was a big thing for it to go over 2 billion. So for after November 2013 in 1 month this market went more than 5 times and more than quintupled. So that's definitely a blow off top. And then it came tumbling down, okay? So the same thing happened in 2017. But here, let's look at this. The market comes down underneath 10 billion. And I think probably the general consensus at the time, I'm going to say, I think safely assume that the consensus was that that 10 billion was probably support. But the market had other ideas. It said, nope, support is more like 5 billion. Okay. So it creeps along, it comes along, it goes back up near 10. People were probably partying, thinking that the party was back, and it wasn't. It was to drag out. Not only that, but it goes underneath 5 billion. Now we're in January 2015. Okay. So let me move this up. So January 2015 is right here. This is January 1st. we're at $5.5 billion market cap. So people are probably thinking that, okay, 5 billion is now support, after they thought it was 10. Now we're talking about what was that? We're talking about a year later. A year has now gone by. 1 year. And it's still dragged out. Not only that, but 5 billion turned out to not be resistance. It actually turned into support. And actually, sorry, it's the other way around. Sorry, I'm getting confused here. What they thought was support has turned into resistance. That's what I meant to say. So now 5 billion is now resistance. Okay, we know in hindsight. And not only that, but it goes under 5 billion and stays there. So it first dipped under 5 billion in January 2015. Okay, but it stays there. Okay, we're thinking that that's support, right? Okay, but no, the market proves that it was actually resistance because it stayed underneath 5 billion for a full, look at all this time. See this right here? This whole line from here to here, this area right here. This is 10 months because look, when it finally dipped above, it was October 2015. It first went below in January. It rolled along. It touched 5 billion here, touched it again here, but never broke it. It still kept riding along for another 3 months. Finally, in November, it goes decisively above 5 billion, and then we get confirmation that it is now 5 billion has resistance has just now turned into support. So when people thought it was support, it really wasn't. It took a whole nother 12 months for that to actually play out. Now 5 billion becomes support, but it was a lot later than people thought, And then, only then, did we finally move up to the, now I'm going to move this over. Okay, let me move it back a little bit because that's too far. Because now we're in November 2015. Now we're in 2016 right here. Now we are decisively above 5 billion. We're at 7 billion market cap. And now we know in hindsight that this is now a confirmed bull market. But look how long it took for this to get to the 2017 top. Another year goes by. And it's rising the whole time, though. So you had all this time to buy at under 15 billion because remember 15 billion was the last all-time high in 2013. So ever since January or November of 2015, it finally broke above 5 billion to recap. Now we're riding this wall all the way back up, but people are not that interested, It hit almost its previous high right then. But now we're in a full-blown bull market, okay? And it comes back down to 10. Now 10 billion is finally back to support. But look how long that took to get back to 10 billion. People thought that 10 billion support was back here. They thought it was probably back around June of 2014. They probably thought that they were at 10 billion support. Nope, they weren't at 10 billion support until June of 2016. So that's another full 2 years after the fact. And this stands to reason that people's view is way too short. So then we had this, what could be considered a top here because it's a short-term intercycle top because this is the previous high it hit back in December 2013. It finally got back. It took 2 years, over 2 years, to get back to its original high. You see, we've only been in our current bear market for 9 months. All right. So let me move out. Okay, what I want to do is close that, but it's not closing. There we go. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay, I want to close this out. So we're riding all the way. See all this? This is people are just building up interest, but it takes so much time. We're now in December 2016. Boom! It finally hits 20 billion. It didn't hit 20 billion until January of 2017. We have a whole another year to go before the blow off top. So you see what I'm saying? Now it starts taking off in earnest only after 2017. Now we're into 2017, okay? So now I'm going to move it up. I'm going to move this in, okay? Here we are, where I left off, January 2017, where we finally started to move decisively past 15 billion, which was the previous all-time high set in 2013. And look at this. We just coasted along. 30 billion, but look at the rise in market cap. 20, 30. April, we're in 30. We hit 30 billion for the first time in April 2017. And everybody knows that 2017 was the year everything was just exponentially rising. But it still did it at a almost unnoticeable pace to a lot of people. You know, 85 billion, 100 billion. Then it drops back down to 70. People probably said, oh, it's over. But nope, it keeps going because we are in a bull market now. Then it hits 150 billion as it's dropped down to back to nearly 100. 115 to drop back down to after hitting nearly 170, 180 billion. Drops back down to 115 and then continue its march. Now we're really moving. Okay. Boom, 200 billion finally decisively over it. And then it just went bonkers from there. 400. 500 billion. I remember watching this in disbelief, saying this can't be real. It's 600. Finally, the market had enough. It said enough is enough, guys. We need to cool down from here. Not until it hit 800 and something. It says 822 here. So as far as the numbers I can see, it was $822 billion January of 2018, okay, which was 8 months ago that we hit this. Now remember what I said during the 2013 move is that it took a full year to get down. Okay, now I'm going to fast forward to where we are now. Coming off this top. This is probably where people thought that 250 billion was support. But nope, the market has other plans. Actually, I'm sorry. I meant they probably thought 500 billion was support because we went back up and touched that. Turned out that that was resistance, and the market said, nope, 250 billion is actually support. And as far as I can tell, it still is. Actually, I think 250 is now resistance, just like it turned 5 billion, went from support to resistance. I think 250 just went from support to now resistance. We could ride underneath that, and now here we are now. See how we came all the way down in April to 250 billion, which touched it, which probably made that support. Went all the way back up to 500, which was the resistance. Came back down to 250, and now we're underneath. Now I think we're at that point like back in 2015 when it rode that wall. Remember this area here? Right here? This is where it rode underneath 5 billion for a full 10 months. We could very well be in the same type of market right now. We might ride 200, 250, or underneath 250. We could ride that for another 6 to 9 months, just like it did back in 2015. You know, I think we're way too soon on calling it a bull market, in my opinion. Looking at this now, things maybe I know things are a lot different. There's more money now coming into the market. There's more market. There's more money in the market now, and there's more money coming into the market now. So that tends to speed things up. So, and I hope that that's the case. I really do. I hope it doesn't take a full 3 years like it did the last cycle. But I think we cannot expect the market to turn on a dime. I think we're way too short because look, we just came out of the all-time high back in just 8 months ago. So We can't expect this to just turn around like that just because we want it to. It could very well ride to sub $200 billion for the next year before we actually turn into a full-blown bull market. So I'm not convinced that there's a lot of people on YouTube saying that we're in a bull market already, that we turned. I'm not so sure. I don't think we've turned into a bull market yet. I think we're still in a bear market, and we could remain in one. I think, in my opinion, this 200, because look back here, July 2017, we weren't even at 100. We were at $67 billion. Let's go back a year. August, we were at 135 billion a year, just 1 year ago. I believe we could easily come down to 175, even 150 billion-dollar market cap before, and I think we'll still be on track. But so many people are like, oh my God, they're ready to jump off the jump out of windows and jump off cliffs right now just because they see this. Well, guess what? We could see lower than this. We could go back down to 150 actually, and not think nothing of it. So I think you should be prepared for that and hope for the best rather than expecting this market to turn up back towards 500 billion. It takes time for these things to play out, and too many people are looking at too short of a time horizon. Look at the long-term things, and you'll see that we're probably not out of this yet. At least that's what I'm going to believe at this point. We could very well see new lows, at least new yearly lows, rather than looking at 5 minute and 10 minute and 1 week and all that crap. Look at it by years, and it looks to me that we still have a ways to go. So don't be surprised if you see this drop under 200 and possibly down to 150.